to the Infinity Bros podcast, the only podcast that is perfectly balanced, as all things should be. I have not been in the driver's seat of this podcast for a long time. You've been enjoying the sweet and sultry tones of Max Mosier, as well as the apparently Jim Halpert-esque Isaac. But I have wrestled the steering wheel from both of them, Jarrett take the wheel style, and it is my show now, so I will do whatever the heck I want. Joining me today, one of my all-time favorite Infinity Bros, I would say top 5 for sure, Robbie, the man, the myth, the legend himself, Sauter. Robbie, how are you?
I'm doing great. I'm glad I made the top 5.
Yeah.
I don't know. Are you counted in your all-time favorite Infinity Bros? Because that makes it a little ambiguous then.
Okay, so truthfully, there are only 4 Infinity Bros besides myself, and then obviously Zane is like the Infinity guest. So top 5 is not difficult to achieve, but you are up there. I just need you to know that.
Okay, I'm glad I'm up there.
One of my top 5 Infinity guests of all time, making her first appearance, Asia. Asia, how are you?
I'm good. Hello. Well, I'm glad that I made that list. Hopefully I won't disappoint since we've just begun.
I have a ranking of like people that I have always admired, and you and Luke have always been up there. Luke is just such a genuine guy, and you guys are such a great couple. So,
thanks.
When
Power
I found
couple.
out you guys were going to be on, for sure. I was like, cool. I'm going to be on that episode. I'm going to make it work. So, we have a lot before us today, but real quick, Asia, where would people know you from?
Maybe from Twitch. I stream honestly these days a variety of content. Basically the goal is achieve the vibes, you know? So whether we're doing chill gaming, or I just added sewing streams, or cooking, or digital art, whatever we're doing, it's a fun time. So I stream on Twitch, and I've been making some content lately on TikTok for like cozy games, and apparently people like the sewing content, so I'm gonna just keep doing that, I guess. But yeah, I just do things here and there. I also I guess like technically I'm a volunteer. I'm not really like on staff at all. By no means am I on staff at all. I don't even know why I said technically. But Luke is part of Love Thy Nerd, full-time on staff. And so it's been really cool to serve alongside him, both like locally by hosting like game nights to do some fun tabletop games and card games and such. And then also helping on the online space as well. And, you know, editing his blog posts and stuff that I've been doing since college. Like this is not how you spell cannot, but it's okay. But yeah, I mean, that's basically where I've been these days.
And we'll drop a link as well. You also are a one of the many hosts on Moviga, and just amazing content you guys have been putting out. I have a very long ride. We were just talking about this before the show. I live in the middle of nowhere, Montana, so a lot of driving time to do anything, and I like shows that are high quality and I can listen to in the car with my boys and not worry about like having to quit, halfway through. And so having you guys on has been a blessing.
Oh, well, good. I'm glad. It's always a fun time there, trying to not argue with Brian constantly on his weird hot takes, and also argue with Steven. But in the end, because he's such a like personable and reasonable person, I mean, I'll still disagree with him, but I'm okay with it in the end. So it's all good.
We're quite the opposite, where we just disagree with each other. There's no common ground.
Fun.
We have a wide variety of opinions, and I think a lot of us are really good at arguing those opinions. I don't think we ever actually get anywhere, though.
Right. The term is bullying, and we're really good at it.
Yeah.
We bully our friends. It's okay.
I will. Maybe I'll get in trouble for saying this, but like, I planted a seed. I want to say this was a few months ago on a recording from Moviga where I was like, dude, I can't remember whose hot take is that they don't like on this podcast, that they don't like WandaVision. I can't remember, but someone doesn't like WandaVision.
Max. That's Max.
Yes.
That's Max.
And so Brian, one of me and Brian's common grounds is WandaVision, and we both love it. Right. And I was like, maybe we should just like, I think this might have been right after Luke had guested with you guys, maybe. And I was like, maybe we should just like start some drama. We should just like,
I love
I don't
that.
know,
Do
like
it.
something like a rivalry. That would be really fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe, I don't know, maybe something will be born out of this
Oh,
this pod recording. Who knows?
and Max would love to argue, and the fun thing that we do here is that Max just gets louder than everybody else and talks over everyone, and then we all just lose. It's just how it works, whether his point is valid or not.
Right. Shouting. You guys are way too nice, and we're cruel and mean people, and so I don't think the beef would go well. But I appreciate it, and I can say the vibes are absolutely immaculate on stream. I tell my wife this all the time because she's a very like crafty and artistic person. To me, like anything even remotely artistic might as well be magic. I'm like a caveman. Yeah, discovering fire for the first time. If you have any talent, like I'm a kid in a candy store. Like, oh my gosh, how are they doing that? Like, where did the rabbit come from? It wasn't in the hat before. So yeah, I really appreciate all the talent that you and Luke display on stream. You guys are just amazing, and Pocky too, obviously.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, she steals the show every time.
And listen, hey, so I'm sorry to do this, but we do have something that we have to do. We have to put you through the gauntlet.
Are you a heel or a baby face? If you could make any flavor Cheez-It, what would it be? Is it pronounced Grogu or Groku? If Keanu Reeves isn't in the movie, can it be star-studded? It's time for the Infinity Gauntlet, here on the Infinity Bros podcast.
Okay. Gauntlet question number 1 comes to us from Isaac. Isaac says, who is your favorite fictional character of all time? Kind of a song.
That's a great question. I think in my gut, I think, okay, the first thing I thought of was I really love Porco Rosso.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Porco Rosso.
Yeah.
I just think he's like such a interesting person or pig person. I don't know, cursed pig man, whatever. And he just has so many secrets and stories behind his snout and in his plane, and I want to know all of them. And so that that I don't know, like I love the entire Studio Ghibli world, universe, whatever, but he is like the most intriguing character that I feel like I would like be friends with. So that'd be my answer.
Asia, part 2 of Isaac's question is this.
Second part. Okay.
It's a 2-parter. These are very rare, but you must be special if he gave you part 2.
Yeah, I feel so special.
You have to make that character a meal that will knock their socks off. What do you prepare for them?
Okay, I'm gonna like marry 2 worlds that maybe don't need to be together, but
Sure.
I feel like I would make like the fancy ratatouille dish from Ratatouille, because I feel like Porco Rosso would appreciate that sort of thing, paired with like the finest wine, and hopefully he'd be my friend and we'd be best friends forever. So that's the goal. That's my new goal in life.
This is like generic Studio Ghibli stuff, but like all of the food looks immaculate.
Oh yeah. We've talked at length about the food in anime looking so good.
Dude. It's
other than like
so
Spirited
beautiful.
Away, I feel like, yeah, Porco Rosso.
Oh my gosh, Spirited Away.
Oh my gosh. That feast just kills me every time. Robbie, can you hit Asia with your Infinity Gauntlet question, please?
You know, I really didn't think about this too much. I forgot that I'm on and I didn't have to think about it all day. So
if you need me to, I can buffer for you, bud.
No. We've had enough buffering today, Jarrett.
Yeah.
We're done with the buffers.
All right. Wrong. Superhero characters are known, at least in the early generations, for having their seemingly underwear on the outside. Are you an underwear on? Are you a trunks or no trunks superhero kind of person?
You know what? I think if done well, trunks can be great. Like, I'm not saying all trunks are great, but like it can add a really cool dimension to the iconic look, and I'm here for that. So I'm gonna go trunks. And also, did you just like come up with that question on the fly? Like, wow.
Not really. It's actually a question that James Gunn asked earlier this week, and I just needed more.
There you go.
I needed more firepower for people that disagree with me.
James Gunn is looking at a Quail Man reboot. If you guys didn't know, so he's trying to figure out like, does Doug put the underwear on the outside? Right.
Nice.
Mark says, if you could make any movie or TV show. Oh, hold on. He worded this so horribly. All but one character is a furry. What movie would you choose?
What?
All but one?
Yeah. So it's like the Muppets thing, but instead of
yeah. Okay, so like don't pick a movie that is basically like a furry movie then is what you're saying.
Right.
Oh, that's a good question.
Oh, I have one.
This might be like too chaotic, but
Sure.
Whiplash would be crazy.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my god.
Oh my gosh, that's a great choice.
That's phenomenal.
And like maybe I feel can I pick okay, so to like expand on that, I feel like only the dad should be the non-furry and everyone else has to be furries. Like he has to grout because he's, the empathetic like human side of his son. And so he should stay human, but then everyone else, animals.
Like the top 5 was definitely earned in that question. Right?
Oh, okay, good. Hold on. I had a little bit of imposter syndrome before joining this call, but it's okay.
No, you're phenomenal. You're knocking it out of the park.
You're right where you need to be.
Good.
Max says, you've already dunked on Max this episode for his horrible WandaVision take, so you're good.
Okay, cool.
Max asks, would you rather be a car, plane, or a boat in the Cars cinematic universe?
Jarrett, no. Come on.
I'm not asking the other question.
Jarrett, ask the good question.
Hey, now I feel like
ask the good question, Jarrett.
Max sent us a slurry of questions.
Ask
the first one that he sent, I said
the
absolutely
good
not.
question.
Okay, give me 5 minutes to find this question that Max asked.
Just it was.
Did you know it was this horrible? It was this.
It was
just
so
absolute
aggressive. It was his question is so aggressive. It was like we were all like, "Dude, you okay? Like
everything all right at home?
Like everything all right?" But then he wanted the backpedal, and he was like, "Oh no, here's my real question." And then it was the planes, trains, and automobiles thing. I was like, "That's a terrible question."
Okay, here you go, Asia. If you want to know, this is
okay.
Yeah, this is the original question. I hope you're prepared.
So wait, Jared. I have to preface this by this was Max after spending 4 days ice fishing and catching 3 fish. So 4 dudes in a little like cabin ice fishing for 4 days.
Carbon monoxide point. Like it was a whole ordeal.
It sounds like they did. It sounds like they had a kind of a rough
dunking
time.
on him. Then I'm sorry.
No. We dunk on Max. That's what we do. So this is Max's mind after 4 days dealing with that. So go, Jared.
That helps me.
Max says, would you rather bite down on a rock as hard as you can or stick a toothpick under your toenail and kick a wall as hard as you can?
Oh my gosh.
Now you see why I was like,
yeah,
I like
that
the
was
other
wild.
question.
That was wild. I feel like I'm gonna go with the rock. I'm gonna bite a rock. I just feel like that's the lesser of 2 evils.
Yeah,
like
that's probably the correct answer.
I can just go to a nice dentist. I feel like it's fine.
See, but then I think about like, you ever get sand in your mouth and you kind of chew on some sand and like, oh, that's awful.
Oh, sometimes, yeah.
I can't imagine.
It's different than like.
I know, but just that little bit of like feeling.
Yeah.
Like put an entire rock in your mouth. Ugh.
That's
still better.
To not be a Mark episode.
Yeah, that's still better than kicking a wall with your toenail.
That sounds like no.
I wouldn't even want to do that without the toothpick. He just threw a toothpick in there because he had a rough weekend. Jeez.
The cherry on top.
Right.
Moving on as quickly as I humanly can. Zane asks, apparently there's a popular thing on TikTok. I didn't know this.
Okay.
Which Pokemon could you cook into the best tasting meal?
I'm sure you've seen
these. Good question. Yeah, I have seen this. I'm trying to think of one that that I didn't see already. I feel like this is. I don't know what I would do with this, but I feel like this could make a really good dish. Is Ditto? I don't know. I just think like it could be one of those like a moose boosh like situation. Like you have like uni is like that texture where it's like kind of slimy and squishy or whatever, but it's like really delicious. I'm like, I feel like Ditto could be an experience.
It's like one of those things that is just like a flavor carrier itself, and like whatever you push in it is what I love that.
I feel like if in the Pokemon world, if they ate Pokemon, I feel like Ditto would be like the high class dish.
Yeah, exactly. Only the fanciest. It's like the menu.
Okay.
Which actually I haven't seen that all the way through, so maybe that's right.
The menu is wild, and
that is wild.
I would recommend watching it once,
yeah,
seeing if you like it, and then like
my brother watched it. That's kind of what he said. He said I should just give it a try.
I did a video on it for our socials, and I was like, I don't know who this movie is for. Like, it's such
for me. I loved this movie.
Did you really? Like, it's a pretty good movie. It's just like, I don't know where this falls. I don't know what genre this is. Like, it's interesting.
Last Infinity Gauntlet question comes from myself.
Okay.
If you had the opportunity, let's say you blew up overnight, your audience numbers in the millions, and you want to start rolling in the money for to keep this going full time and to really support whatever endeavors you have. If you could pick the perfect company to partner with as your sponsor, as your partner in business, who would it be and why?
That's a great question. The hard thing is, like, I feel like I do a little bit of everything, so I'm like, who would best? Okay, I'm gonna keep it. I'm gonna be loyal to my peeps. I don't really have a partnership with them, but they're so awesome, and I would love like a real partnership with them. My friends over at Genki, Human Things by Genki, they are awesome, and they make really cool gadgets. Like, okay, what's very impressive about them is they're like 3 people. It's the tech guy, the dev dude, the marketer, and the salesperson, and they just like create all these really unique products for the Switch, and for now they're like kind of going into just more like gaming stuff in general, and like finding ways to apply it outside of gaming. And the little I've interacted with them for like some product stuff, I really have loved. And so I guess my dream would be like to do stuff with them more efficiently.
Yeah, this is really cool. I've never heard of this before, and like I would use every single one of these, and their earbuds look phenomenal.
Yeah, their earbuds are awesome. I use them to listen and watch Last of Us on the plane.
This is cool.
It's super cool.
Honestly, this is really fun. I've
this, plug for Genki.
Yeah,
right, people.
Hey, let's get that sponsorship.
Yeah,
deal,
please, for everyone, all around.
Forever, yeah.
I like this. Well,
so
Asia,
the waveform. Sorry, I'm gonna tangent and like.
No, you're good.
Like,
please,
tangent. Go.
So the waveform earbuds, like, there's a like interface thing on your phone that you can use, and I like they're it's gaming focus, and so they do have some presets for different like music stuff, but then they also have like gaming focused presets. And I was like, I kind of want to watch Last of Us using this open world like preset and to see that was horrifying but great at the same time. It was very immersive, and 10 out of 10 would recommend.
That's phenomenal. And these aren't like crazy break the bank expensive either.
No.
Dang. Just in case anyone is wondering, we are not sponsored by Genki.
But maybe we should be.
But maybe.
We should, I guess we should be. But no, this is all very cool.
Yeah, I'm looking at their stuff right now.
We're just gonna stop it here. Sorry, guys, that's the episode.
And that's it.
Well, congratulations, Asia. You thoroughly handled the Infinity Gauntlet.
I do feel like, wait, I can't remember. Was Luke's Infinity Gauntlet question the like what game or what board game would you turn into a movie or something like that?
Yeah.
And
he had the worst
answer ever.
Wait, what
I
was
do
his
feel
answer?
Monopoly.
Oh my god.
That
was Luke that said that?
That was a Luke. Well,
yes.
Okay, so he got himself all confused because he was like, I feel like I should pick something that everyone knows. So everyone knows Monopoly, but that was a terrible answer. And then he just regretted the whole time.
For a guy that plays board games for kind of his living, like, come on, man.
I feel so bad. He probably hates when I hop on his stream because every single time I'm like, "Hey man,
this is Monopoly."
That one time.
No, we love Luke, but that was pretty wild. His episode is still one of my favorites by far. So yeah, you've joined the echelon of people who've survived the Infinity Gauntlet.
Glad to be here.
To date, we haven't kicked anybody off yet, but like Zane, even though he doesn't take it, is like really he's been on the edge every time.
Yeah, he's real close.
We're thinking about for a special segment next week. We're gonna have like a survival style voting system. The problem is none of us can remember if he found the idol or not. So I guess stay tuned for that. All right. If you haven't been riding this journey with us, Pedro Pascal continues to prove that he is like the king of just like really, really sad traveling with child stories.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And The Last of Us has been killing it. We're now on episode 4. If you haven't listened up till this point, if you haven't been watching along, we will try to give you some spoiler-free, just surface-level thoughts. And then we'll give our ratings. We will plug our bumper right here.
Here on the Infinity Bros podcast, everything is ranked from a 0 to 6 point scale. 0 meaning horrible, and 6 meaning absolutely excellent. If all of the Infinity Bros rank something a 6, it gets an Infinity Step.
And after you listen to our spoiler-free thoughts, we would love it if you would go watch the episodes, come back and listen to everything in depth as we talk about it. Because, guys, there's so much to pick apart here from the 3 episodes leading up to this and now episode 4. Kind of a hard pivot. So let's start out with Robbie. Robbie, just surface level, spoiler-free, how are you feeling about this, The Last of Us so far?
The Last of Us episode 4, this word shouldn't be used for this series at all, but I feel like it does kind of fit. This movie or this episode was kind of like a filler episode. Don't take that the wrong way.
Ooh.
It's the episode that gets us
the F word on Infinity Bros.
It's the episode that gets us where we need to be to be interesting.
Sure.
Because otherwise, yes, it is the setup episode. Because otherwise, they would have just drove to Wyoming.
Right.
You know,
That's true. Yeah.
I feel like this cuts things up and like this makes it so it can't be like, and they drove to Wyoming. There was his brother, and they found him. You know, so that is not to take away from this episode at all. I really enjoyed this episode. I would give this episode, just like I did episode 3, I'd give this episode a 5.5 out of 6.
Asia, what do you think about this so far? You can do the whole series up until episode 4 and then give us like a just brief episode 4.
Sure. My background with The Last of Us is I've never played the game at all, ever. Probably would never do that because I suck at those kinds of games. But I have been looking forward to watching, and so I binged all 4 episodes in one day, and that day was today.
That's awesome.
And yeah, I really have been enjoying it. I think obviously the setting is like visually stunning in its own, like, you know, not post-apocalyptic, but kind of way. And the colors that they use for like the blue, the yellows and greens are just like really interesting for this content. And the character development has just been really fascinating. And yes, Pedro is like amazing. He does no wrong so far, and
everyone loves Pedro Pascal.
I mean, exactly. So that's been really intriguing, and I really, really like Ellie. Like, I think sometimes the angsty or I guess she's a teenager, but like the angsty like teenage or like preteen kid can be a little over the top or a little annoying, and it in a way that's like very frustrating and counterproductive. But I feel like the tension that she brings is very helpful for like her character development, their like relationship development, and just like obviously overall story. So I'm very intrigued to see how these little details that we keep seeing, and you know, her like how she interacts with weapons and like by herself, and I don't know, just she intrigues me. And random tidbit that I feel like I should throw out there. So this sounds like unrelated to anything, but it is. So I used to work for this very bougie juice bar. It was my second job after I got married, and we it being a bougie juice bar, we would use like these fancy mushrooms and fungi and stuff to supplement like these juices. And so the like healing blend, so like used for like muscle recovery, like anxiety reducing, blah blah blah. One of the items was cordyceps, and so I just think that's really interesting. That like I don't know if that was like purposeful, like the irony was like there, or just like the look of the like striation or whatever.
I think it's hilarious because like everyone's been taking videos whenever they see that word now, and they put it on TikTok, and everyone's like just loses their mind. I can't believe it.
I just remember I would just like have these vats of rishu, which is like another herb, and then cordyceps, and I'm like, oh, this is so annoying making these little supplements. But yeah, that was interesting.
That's really cool.
And but episode 4 was, I agree. I think it was a good like setup episode. I really was intrigued. Oh, I don't think this is a spoiler. I'm pretty sure this was like pretty obvious, but Mulaney Linsky, I don't know how to say her last name, being introduced as one of the characters was like very interesting to me. I feel like it's a very serious role for her, and her fairy voice, I love it. I'm here for it. The contrast between like her character and her demeanor is like really interesting to me.
This is awful, but I couldn't help but like think like this is like a Karen who like became in charge somehow.
Yeah. Like that's, I'm so intrigued by her because I'm like, why does everyone how is everyone respecting her? Like all of these like war-torn, survivalist minded people just listening to literally everything she's saying. So I want to know more. But yeah, I thought it was a good setup episode for sure. I really like the dynamic, or like the growing dynamic between Joel and Ellie. So fascinating.
Yeah,
that's what I got.
I have to agree because like, again, I have like maybe 2 minutes of experience with the game, and so I was familiar with the concept of the world, and I think the series is doing an amazing job pulling me into it. I mean, it is essentially like another zombie apocalypse story, but it does it in such a unique way where, like you touch on in Asia, it's like a pretty end of the world, right? It's not doing the Walking Dead thing where they just like gray it out extra for no reason or like slap a sepia tone over it. Like it looks brilliant. And then the storytelling has been phenomenal. Obviously, like people have been raving the first 3 episodes so far. And I think I don't want to say that it slows that down a little bit, but it's, it is a setup episode. I think it does a lot of the important world building, right? So like one of my most frustrating pet peeves, and people talk about this all the time in media, is like, don't tell, show, right? And I think this is doing a great job of showing us some of these truths that we're supposed to believe about the world, right? Like how visceral and nasty it is, and how depraved people can be, and how there aren't really heroes, right? Everybody's sort of just morally gray, and we just happen to be patched on this ride. And I think you touched on something really important too, which is like, I don't know why. There are a lot of people who have really mixed feelings about Ellie, and I think Bella Ramsey is killing it. And I think you talked about it. Like she's not annoying in a way that like is actually annoying. It's a sort of like disarming charm to her, where you can't help but love her, even though like she does these quote unquote annoying things, but it's very endearing. And I think that's important for us to see that journey, because we have to believe that this like battle hardened Pedro Pascal wandering through the waste has some soft spot left in him for this little girl, especially after what he's gone through. And I think she does a great job of like opening that door to where it's not that much of a leap for us to believe these things about the world.
Right. Exactly.
So yeah, we'll get into like the minute by minute here in a minute, but for what we have right now, I gotta agree with you guys. I think it's got to be like a 5.5 for this. I think the series so far is a 5.5 for me. This episode was a 5. It was a little slower than I may like, but
we need Asia's ratings.
Yes, Asia. What do you give out of 6?
Out of 6.
Out of 6. Okay. Yeah, I would say like right now I give it a 5. Like I think that's a good 5.5. Like it's very, very good. I think I could get to a 6 depending on. I have a hard time ranking things before I have seen the completed story, because I feel like something I can really love something, but then depending on how they wrap it up, I'm like, oh, that was like a complete missed opportunity. I thought you were going here with this, and you
See,
not
that's
not that I want it to be what I want. I just want like
Right.
there to be intent behind
Are you a Game of Thrones
different elements of
person?
stories. I haven't watched
Okay,
Game of
this
Thrones.
is
really.
kind of like
I was gonna say that was I was gonna say that WandaVision was actually kind of for me and Max was
Mhm.
like that was the issue with it. It's like it was so unique for like 4 episodes,
Mhm.
and then it went back to just like the normal MCU
Like slip
plot.
back into the
Yeah,
this is where
Fair
the beef
enough. But I think
starts,
that's-
guys. Feed it.
right. I think, but I think that's kind of the same thing. Like if you don't get to finish something, you're just waiting and like you're hoping they can land the plane. But Game of Thrones is a great example of something that didn't land the plane. Like,
Yeah.
and
It's
obviously
unfortunate. You can still appreciate what you
Yeah.
loved, but it's like so close.
Yeah.
right.
Okay, so now listen, you've been warned. We are going into full spoiler territory. If you do not want to have us spoil this for you, if you have not caught episode 4, or if you haven't heard or seen the series at all, please pause now. Come back and listen to the rest of this later, or skip ahead. We will have timestamps to where we talk about James Gunn and the future of DC. So you have been warned.
This is
Prepare yourself.
an Infinity Bros
Prepare yourself.
spoiler warning.
This episode starts off with just kind of picking up where we left off. They now have the truck, and honestly, like just from the get go, I thought this was going to be a lot longer than it was. As far as like they get this truck, and then it's like this long trek. But we kind of
Right.
lose it pretty early on, but in
I
the
was like,
midst of that, they have these really personable conversations, and we get some of the backstory filled in as to why his brother is missing and what happened in Wyoming, and a lot of
Mhm.
characterization here about like what happened to the world. Asia, what did you think about this sort of like mini road trip series that we got here?
Yeah, I really like how they are pacing storytelling. Like you said, the show don't like I don't know what you said, but basically don't speak it, like show it.
Yeah.
I think like the way in which he is like revealing and how she is revealing a little bit of her backstory, they're like pacing themselves well.
Yeah.
Like I think like if they just are like, all right, it's they're in the car again, now it's time for backstory, and like it doesn't feel like that's the setup.
Right.
It feels very natural, and like the circumstances that have led them to this point have triggered this sort of conversation, and so I really so far I'm like loving the pace of that. I'm impressed because I feel like when it's that sort of story where you're kind of dropped in the middle and you're like, wait, why like what is his backstory, like why is he ashamed by
Right.
what he's done in the past, what has he done, whatever. It's easy to rush through that, like the exposition of those characters backstories, but I like it. I think like they're not taking forever, but they're also not just jam packing it, so I'm here for it.
Yeah, and this is like a critique that we have quite a bit of. Obviously we're big Marvel fans, but the TV shows
Mhm.
tend to really force that issue, exactly what you're talking about, where like they have
Yeah.
to give so much exposition so quick, and this feels
Mhm.
more natural. Like that, I love this. I don't know why, but this tiny detail sticks out to me so much. Is like I have 2 boys, and my son is like adamant that he doesn't believe that he falls asleep in the car. Like it's a fight we have all the time, and I'm like, no, you crashed. It's okay, bud. And every time he's like, no, I'm gonna stay awake. This and like within the middle of that conversation, he just crashed. And so like little things like that, and the way that they space it out and the conversation happens naturally, it doesn't feel forced. It doesn't feel like somebody is writing this based off of what they think these conversations might look like. Like this is somebody who's had these sort of conversations with people.
Yeah.
Robbie, what do you think about all this?
No, I agree. It's like they're moving the story along, but they're progressing like not just physically, like moving to like try to get to Wyoming, but they're also like emotionally moving the story along. So there's like these dead scenes where a lot of shows or movies might just be like, well, they're driving. Like, what are we going to do? It's going to be like 3 hours later, they're in whatever town. But no, they're using like that time as valuable time to like get into more depth of Joel and Ellie's story. And you're also starting to see like Joel's like his armor's starting to break a little bit. Ellie
Yeah.
is breaking him a little bit with those, especially with those
puns.
dad jokes
Yeah.
that she found.
Yeah.
Puns are great. So yeah, it was awesome. It's awesome just to be on that little bit of a journey with them, just like, and then I really enjoyed how they did the whole sleeping thing,
Right.
where Joel's like, I'm gonna hear them, like there's no way someone's gonna creep up on me, and then you see him like
Yes.
he's standing with the gun, like they're like he's always ready.
Yeah.
And obviously by the end of the movie he feels a little too comfortable,
Sure.
which is part of his whole thing, is like he doesn't let himself get comfortable.
Right.
But he finally had like a laughing moment with Ellie where he just was probably so deliriously tired that anything would have made him laugh, and she hit him with the diarrhea joke. And then gets caught off guard for probably the first time in the last 20 years. So it's interesting how their story building, and I really like that we're Joel's an onion, right?
Yeah.
He's Shrek. We're peeling back the layers
Yes.
of Joel, and Ellie is doing a really good job, and I'm really enjoying that story between them unfold.
I think that level of vulnerability has to be earned, right? Because we talked about this with the last episode, where like they'll tell us that these characters are like, he's a prepper, he knows not to do these things, and he stood in the middle of the street and got shot. And then we switch to Joel, and it's like, he's this hardened guy. And if he just suddenly softened up for no reason,
like
there was no build up to that.
Is he still there? Does he know that he's...
I don't know.
That's my question. See. Does he know that he's out? And he's gone.
He probably knows now.
And he's back.
I'm Icarus right now. I'm flying too close to the sun. I my mind, and it was like, absolutely not. No, I think, okay, I'll try to pick up where I was. I think that vulnerability is something that has to be earned, right? And so like Joel, we're told that Joel is this like really battle hardened person, and he's been through so much. And if he suddenly was just like, oh yeah, I love this little girl, she's practically family, and we didn't see that like slowly chipping away at his calluses, then there's not really any substance to this. And I think they're doing that so well, where it feels earned. And I think that's something that we've been complaining about with a lot of these TV shows lately, where it just feels rushed, or like the writers didn't know what to do, so they just panic wrote something in. And this feels like they took their time and they understand like how this operates. So we kind of go from this into a really dramatic twist, where they have to go through the city, and all of a sudden there's this man begging for help, and Joel immediately recognizes it for what it is. It's an ambush. What did you guys think of this? This was a pretty jarring transition between like their goofy, side chick to...
I was so sad. I was like, you only have the truck for like 2 seconds.
I know. That's what I'm saying.
After all of that,
right?
Like everyone sacrificed.
Well, and that's what, okay, somebody pointed this out too. They're like, if the goal of these raiders was to get all their supplies, a operating and working truck would be phenomenal. And they throw a brick through that window and slash the tires.
Right. Yeah.
I'm like, what are you doing here? That's not going to help you. Just wild. So what did you guys think of this? Because here you have like our first look at, obviously we've seen the like organized government structure as this ruthless thing, but here you have just people. And like, as Joel says, like, they're not good people left. Like, people are the real monsters, not these clickers. What'd you guys think of this scene with Ellie and him, and the dynamic of, does she get involved or not?
I was during that scene, I was kind of thinking, like, are these like the people you think of when you think of apocalyptic movies and shows? It's like, are these like people that just kill everyone because they're not with their crew or whatever? Right. And I was really interested in that, and I was like watching them operate. So when Joel shoots the first guy, the other guy that's with him doesn't just like keep shooting at Joel.
He stops.
He goes over and he stops. He goes over. He checks on him. He gets him out of the way. Like these are like a crew that actually like cares about each other. So like that in itself tells me like these are, like you said, Jared, they're gray characters. They're going to help and defend themselves, but they're not like so lost that like if one of their guys is hurt, they're just like, oh, who cares kind of thing. And I think that played into they said his name a bunch. Was it Brian that ran into the room to
Oh
try and
yeah.
kill Joel?
Yeah.
That played into the emotion that he showed.
Right.
And you're like, when he was like begging for his life, I was like, I don't know how I feel about this.
Oh gosh, so conflicting.
Right. And you're like, if you're Joel and you know, Joel's gone through a bunch and he, you know, explained a little bit more to Ellie, like when they were climbing the stairs, like he probably has killed people that were innocent. And just like those people were willing to do to them, Joel had probably done to other people because that's just the world they're living in.
Right.
But it puts us, the viewer, in a really weird situation because we have to like try to understand that thinking, which we can't really do.
Yeah.
But it was really, really interesting. I was like, Bill might let this Brian, or it was Brian or Tyler. It was a really generic name, I feel like. But he was gonna let, like, it looked like Joel might let him live. And then he was like, Ellie, go back through the hole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like,
and then I was like, oh, okay. Nope.
I do. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go.
I really like how the action sequences in the show, and especially this episode, like, are not thrown away. Like, yes, like obviously you can anticipate there's going to be so much survival, like just trying to get her to where she needs to go, and to get to Wyoming. But yeah, like the narrative on just the humanity of people when, you know, you're in dire situations, like how you would respond or how they would respond, is like very fascinating. And also, you know, just even the interactions between Ellie and Joel were like really interesting, of her like being more trusting of him and like listening to him, but then also fighting back her own secret that she, you know, when she stole that gun, like she came out to like save him.
Right.
I just think it's really interesting. There's so many like complex dynamics, and I think they are really good at you know, like creating conversation and interest around these like expected moments you would think to have in a sense, but like make them very surprising.
Yeah, because these are for all intents and purposes like red shirts, right? These are throwaway characters, and yet for that 2 minutes or whatever it was, we were invested in their story, and I think that's hard to do.
Right.
We talked about, obviously, Bill says this like flat out. He says this to Joel. He's like, you know, we're not good people. Like, we just exist to protect the people around us. And I think that theme is very prominent because that's what these three people are doing, right? Is they're protecting by being raiders. And I think, like, if we're being honest with ourselves, if it was kill or be killed for our family, a lot of us would be the bad guy. We would be the villain in somebody else's story. And I think I really like that as like a narrative piece, because it talks about like at what point do we sacrifice our humanity for these things, and like what does it mean to be human? Which is really deep for like a show about, you know, sentient mushrooms that take over people's minds, you know. So we go from this scene with the ambush and immediately like flip to the other side of it. Now we're in where was it Kansas City? No.
Yes.
Yeah.
I believe that.
Okay, so we're in Kansas City, and we get Karen, and Karen is like interrogating her family doctor about, I believe the guy's name was Henry. She said it like 45 times. Did this bother anyone else? Because she's like, "Where's Henry? What did Henry do?"
Henry and Henry and Sam. They had to make sure we knew who they were.
I was like, "Hey, we get it." Like, sorry, they're both kind of forgettable names, but like, we got it at this point,
right?
And like you said, okay, her voice and her whole demeanor completely took me out of this. Where I was like, all right, I'm with you so far, but like, this is somebody's like really obnoxious aunt right now. Somebody needs to come get their aunt, because this is not working for me. What do you guys think? Is this a storyline that we're gonna live in for a couple episodes? Is this where we end up for the rest of the season? Do you think this is just a pit stop along the way? What do you guys think?
I think we'll be here for a couple episodes, but I don't think it's going to be like the story.
Sure.
Is my assumption. I think it will just like help us gain perspective of like we're just thinking in the world in the realms of um whatever the government's called. I already blanked
Right.
on their names. And the Fireflies, yeah.
Yeah.
Like we're just thinking in those camps, but like this is an entire and obviously the like infected, but like this is an entirely different category that Ellie in particular has not really interacted with ever.
Right.
So I'm very interested to see like how that'll play out, but I don't think it's going to last like the rest of the show or rest of the season.
Yeah, I'm with you. Robbie, what do you think?
Yeah, it seems like this is going to be just a pit stop along the way. If you've seen, I suppose this isn't really spoilers, though I guess it could be. But in some of their promotional stuff, they've shown like Joel with his brother again.
Right.
So like we know he eventually gets somewhere that's probably not here unless his brother just
shows up,
happens to also be in Kansas City. Which I suppose isn't entirely impossible, but it just seems unlikely for a dystopian world that they would just magically show up at the same place. But I do think we're going to be here for at least an episode or two. And this is where, like, if we played the video game, we would all, any of us played it, we would know,
We would
like,
know.
oh, no, this is just a side story. Like, they get out of here after the next episode. They help Sam and Henry, and then they move on. But we don't know. So we're just here. We're just along for the ride. So, yeah, it looks like Jared's frozen again. Oh,
we're doing it.
We're getting somewhere.
Yes. Yes.
At least it's not completely shutting down anymore. It just
that's true.
Loses connection. You're wonderful. You're doing
great.
I would have already. If I was hosting, I would have already called it by now. So,
I thought about it, but I'm like, man, honestly, the conversation has been phenomenal, so I don't want to scrap it. And Asia, you've already you spent your whole day doing this, and so I feel like
true.
Like I can't talk to that guy ever again. Sorry. All right, Robbie, did you finish your your train of thought there?
Yeah.
Okay. One thing I want to touch on before we get let's just jump to the end of this because I think it's really important to talk about these two characters. I am a sucker for good storytelling and character design, and I mean not just obviously in their dialogue and all that, but visually telling a story through these characters because it's a visual medium, right? I listen to podcasts and I get something out of those, but I watch TV to watch TV. I want to see something. Right. Sam is my favorite character ever already. He's been on screen for less than a minute, probably. I love this kid because we see the lines in his room of the superhero. And the next time we see him, he's got this gun and his eyes are painted like that. And I love that idea that at the end of the world, people still believe in heroes. And I think that tells a lot about maybe the story that they're also trying to tell with Joel. My son, Eli, is the biggest, he has the largest personality of any child I've ever met. It is a battle, a physical battle, not to have him wear costumes to his babysitter every day. His closet is 3/4 costumes and then just some regular clothes in the corner. Eli can have the worst day, right? And he still is you know what? I'm Spider-Man today, so it's all right. He has bumped his head, he's cut his nose open, and the moment he puts on that mask, he's fine. He doesn't feel a thing. And I love that a little bit of that personality is shining in the 2 minutes that we've seen of him pointing a gun at our heroes. What do you guys think about these two characters? Is this something that we're going to dive into? What do you think the story is that we're going here? Obviously it's a cliffhanger, so I don't really know, but
yeah, I'm very curious to see where they'll go with it, but I love the idea of exploring the perspective of a child during something like this. I'm very intrigued to see how that will play out. I was very happy. I guess happy might be too joyous for this setting, but I was intrigued by this fascination with heroes and the fact that he's got the mask on at the end. So I don't know. I'm curious to see how he and Ellie interact. With her being also, I mean, older obviously, but a kid who has a very different perspective on life than this kid does. And I want to see how Joel interacts with all of that, as he, I'm sure, will reminisce about his daughter. Yeah,
Right.
I don't know. I'm happy. I'm just ready to be like surprised.
I mean,
sure.
Joel has proven that. I mean, Pedro Pascal has proven that he is the galaxy's best babysitter.
That is true.
So
Yeah,
here he is. He's just going to take 2 more kids in, just take them on a little adventure, give them a story to tell their kids. Like, Joel is just the greatest babysitter of all time. I think that's what we're getting from this.
He's like the epitome of like good stepdad.
Right. Yeah.
You got Steve Harrington, the babysitter, and then he's like the stepdad.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love it. Yeah, and it is like we have a lot in this very like end of it. Obviously, like they're worried about their food shortage. We're trying to figure out who the heck these 2 people are. There's like the breathing mass of rubble,
Yes.
and then just like smash cut to guns in the face.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited to see what happens next. So please, Infinity Bros listeners, go on this journey with us. We've committed. We don't do this with every series, obviously. Some of them I think we wish we could go back, like Severance and some of those.
Separate.
But we're along for the ride for The Last of Us. So like, if you're interested in the way that we are, hit us up for our next recording. And please start the conversation with us. We're going to go down, check our Discord all the time. We're on Twitter. So please talk to us about The Last of Us. Where do you think this is going? What do you think this is so far? So without further ado, I think it is time to talk about the big news.
Hey, Zane, I was looking into getting into this Gunpla thing. There's one called the Unicorn Banshee. What the heck is that all about? Actually, Jarrett, what you're thinking of is RX-0 Unicorn Gundam 2 Banshee, which is from the Mobile Suit Gundam. Actually, you know what? It's time for nerd news.
James Gunn. Obviously, recent announcement, he took over as head of DC. Did phenomenal work with Marvel. Saved probably one of the worst team ups ever over at DC, Suicide Squad.
We don't talk about Suicide Squad.
Actually, yeah. But the redemption story there was quite impressive, and now he is the man, the myth, the legend over at DC. Their Kevin Feige, so to speak. And some wild news happened, not just for DC fans, but specifically for Robbie. Robbie, anything special happened to you this week?
Oh, we're gonna get into that right away.
Absolutely, man.
I thought we'd hit on the other stuff. So basically, what happened last week is that James Gunn revealed his vision for what's going to happen with DC. Along with that, the next day, he put out, I believe it was a tweet that included multiple different comic books, and he also retweeted people that were talking about the movies or the comic books that they were going to be inspired to make the movies. So among those was Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, All-Star Superman, Grant Morrison's Batman, Alan Moore's Swamp Thing, and The Authority, which is something I don't know anything about. But the coolest thing about this is that all 4 of those or all 5 of those comic books are now completely sold out everywhere.
Yeah.
Wow.
So someone had posted a picture about the 3 top bestsellers from Barnes and Nobles right now, at least at the time that I put this out, which is on February 3rd, was Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow was number 1, Batman by Grant Morrison was number 2, and All-Star Superman was number 3. So I made a tweet that James Gunn has kind of given these comic book artists, these inkers, these pencilers, a really cool platform for them to get their books out.
Mm-hmm.
And James Gunn retweeted what I said.
Wow, you're famous.
So now I'm famous. Well, he retweeted what the Infinity Bros said. So the Infinity Bros are famous. So
it was
really cool.
Credit
really, really cool.
It's so cool.
It's so weird because I'm going through his Twitter because he doesn't tweet as much as people think. Like he replies to a few things, but he's only tweeted 3-4 things since February 3rd. so it's like it's still up there. It's still getting a bunch of views. Like it's kind of cool that like the Infinity Rose is like on James Gunn's like homepage and Twitter. So really cool thing. This happened to me during I work at a high school, and it's happened to me during third period, and I told everyone, it's like, I'm checked out for the rest of the day. Fourth and fifth period, I'm on my phone and I'm just tweeting at everybody that's like commenting on it. Like I'm just like a kid in a candy store. It's like, this is like a dream. Cause like if this was Kevin Feige, could you imagine how Max would have freaked out, Jared? Like it would have been crazy.
He'd have been crying. Yeah.
Right. Like this was insane. Now, James Gunn now has to back it all up, and like hopefully all these movies are amazing, and like this isn't like it all falls apart and these movies are trash, and like DCU is just as bad as it was under Zack Snyder. But and
they're gonna say it's the Infinity Bros.
Yeah, they're gonna be like,
they tried to call their shot.
These douchebags here thought that this guy was so cool. Like
maybe your villain origin story.
It might be. Yeah, there's a chance. There is a chance. But no, it was really, really cool. Not just for me, but for the Infinity Bros and for those comic book artists, those writers and those inkers that got some recognition, I feel like. So and that's the really cool things James Gunn has continued to do after he revealed all of these movies and shows that they're making, is that he is like, he's not even talking about movies on his Twitter. All he's talking about is like the comic books that inspired them, and then like retweeting different books that they're looking at, and then retweeting and talking to like other comic book writers and artists on Twitter. So it is really cool. He's doing a lot just for the comic book people right now, and I think it's really, really cool.
Asia, I was wondering, so how into this are you? Are you a big comic book fan? Do you catch all the DC and Marvel movies?
This is why I'm like, I feel like I have imposter syndrome. I'm like not into the comics at all. I've just like never really gotten into them, but I do love, I'm probably more into like everything MCU. I'm pretty sure everything. If not, yeah, I'm pretty confident watching everything. And I like to deliberate with Luke about, we've had very interesting conversations about the crazy experience that was Phase 4. That was fun.
We get it.
But I really liked the I think it's the Suicide Squad. Is that the one that James Gunn did? I can't remember what that one's called.
I always forget which one is the real one.
The good one. The good one. I really liked the good one.
Yeah, the good one.
Yeah. And I really like James Gunn. I think he is phenomenal. So I'm super excited to see. I think he'll do a good job of like letting DC, celebrate the things that make it unique, and like really just lean into its own thing, and not try to either just be the opposite of MCU or emulate MCU. I think that's like been to their detriment over every movie, except I did like the new Batman movie. That was very good.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm excited. A lot of the like Swamp Thing. Justin on Moviga, he is like the DC nerd. Like he's excited about every single thing, and he keeps telling us about it. And so I'm excited for him to be excited. But yeah, I'm excited to like learn more about or explore more of what DC has to offer. I really like Teen Titans and like Young Avengers and their animated stuff. I think that's always really good. The like what is it called? The like Samurai Batman. It's not called Samurai Batman, but basically the Samurai Batman
Batman Ninja.
Like Ninja.
Maybe yeah. That was really good. So like I've really always been a fan of their animated stuff. I did. Yeah, I did. I liked it. I thought it was a good experience.
We can get into this. Like we have time. Batman Ninja.
No.
Batman Ninja is a movie that could have been so good, but they went. I feel like there is a point where you can go to anime, if that makes sense.
Like they were the wrong person. I'm sorry. You're talking to the wrong person.
It just like it was good. It was good. And then they went over the top with like the giant Joker robot and like
Batman Ninja. Like I don't know. I think that was the one time they could do that.
I love anime too.
Got him in the
I
corner.
love anime too. Like out of if like Zane isn't here, he's the only other Infinity Bro that watches any other anime. But like Studio Ghibli stuff, it's like you, me, and Jarrett. So it's like, but that movie, I had different hopes for that movie. That's probably why I didn't like it. But maybe I should give it a shot again and be like, this is going to get out of hand. Enjoy it.
Yeah. You got to watch it like you watch all the Tremors movies. Like, understand that it doesn't have to be perfect to be good, right?
There you go.
I feel like that's a terrible idea to go into it with. I feel like I would hate it more.
But yeah, so like I don't know a ton about DC stuff, but I have always, historically been a fan of their animated stuff. So I'm excited to see like how all of that will be cohesive. Unless it's like, is it called Other Worlds? I can't remember what they're called.
Elseworlds.
Or Elseworlds, yeah. So yeah, I'm excited.
Yep. So we do not gatekeep. Unless your name is Max, we do not gatekeep you as a fan of anything. So you're fine. Don't worry about it. A fan of any DC property is a DC fan.
I'm glad.
So that's totally fair. I wanted to talk about this too, because we mentioned it, but this is a common critique that we get across the entire like spectrum of comic book to TV or movie adaptations, is they almost never pay it back to the original source material. Even Walking Dead, like the sales for that comic bumped a little bit. But there are so many people who don't know like that was ever a comic book.
Yeah.
Yep.
And Marvel is so unbelievably bad.
Terrible at it.
Like it was a very contentious thing. We talked about it at length with like Moon Knight. Jeff Lemire probably didn't see anything. Like Warren Ellis probably didn't see anything. The big one was like Matt Fraction and David Aja's Hawkeye. You cannot watch that series and not say like that was completely 100% like that comic book.
They 100% stole like the title screen and the like ending screen was like it was the cover of that comic book, and there's no credit. There's no credits for those people, which is just it makes no sense.
Fraction gets this tiny little blurb and like just this tiny little like inspired by Matt Fraction or whatever. David Aja gets nothing, and like that was his whole aesthetic is what pushed that series forward. And so you have James Gunn now finally in the seat, like driving. He's got his hands on the wheel. And he says, you know what? All of this exists because of these people. All of this exists because they had a vision and a dream, and they made these products. And I think there's been some back and forth on our Twitter and other places where people are like, it's so dumb. These are sold out. Like blah blah blah. These people aren't real fans. Like we all started at that point where somebody said like, hey, check out this comic book. I think you're gonna like it. And to say that like these people shouldn't be allowed in our space because they didn't like comic books 3 weeks before we did or whatever the case is the dumbest argument I've ever heard. Like this is net positive.
Well, that was one of the things I've had to do with this tweet going wild is because I was like, okay, this is a moment as content creators, we're like, okay, we're going to reply to every single person. And you get a lot of positive people and you get a lot of people asking really, really good questions, but you also get the people like just asking terrible questions or having terrible like comments on it,
like really bad
like,
faith arguments.
Yeah, and it like you said, Jared, it is a lot of gatekeeping people. Like their one was like, real DC fans should have had these books already. It's like, well, no, like some people only read certain books. Some people don't have access to certain books, and some people just don't know what's good and what's not. Like, and then there's other people that just, they've never bought a comic book in their life. So it's like, why would we gatekeep something that is so enjoyable for so many people? It's like, if you want to keep having comic movies, if you want to keep having good comic stories, like you want these books to sell, like, and you want them to get recognition because that's just better for anyone who loves these stories. And these stories are great. And that's a big part of it. It's like these stories are so good in these comics, which is a reason DC has failed, is because they haven't followed the comics that they said they're going to. Marvel's done a better job of keeping things a little closer to the chest and actually following comics to like a marginable degree that makes sense and connects. They just don't give the creators the credit
yeah.
for it.
They don't care about the creators.
Where
Props
it
to
seems like,
Poppums.
it seems like DC wants to make sure, and also got to say, James Gunn said these movies are not going to be they're not going to be carbon copies of these books that he's
Which we
pushing.
don't want.
We don't want that.
anyways.
But they are inspirations for the books. And these books that he is pushing are incredible. Grant Morrison's Batman is some of the best Batman stories
Oh my gosh, yeah.
that you'll ever read. All-Star Superman is an incredible Superman story that like speaks to the actual character of Superman. I haven't read Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, but I am like, if I see it on the shelf, I'm buying it. But right now it's sold out everywhere, so I'm not going to see it on the shelf. But like there's so many good stories that like I want as many people as possible to see these things. And the fact that there's people out there that are gatekeeping it is just really, really unfortunate. But it's just cool. James Gunn and DC seem to be completely on board with pushing comic books and the movies at the same time.
Yeah. So of this list, and I'll go through it one more time, Asia, for you. Are there any of these that you're like, that's my thing? I'm super excited for this. So again, it's Creature Commandos, which I'm not going to fault you for not knowing because
No one knows.
Most of us do. Waller, which is following the story of Amanda Waller. Superman Legacy, Lanterns, which Green Lanterns, The Authority, which again,
Don't know
you're fine. We don't know what that
know
is.
anything about them.
Paradise Lost, Brave and the Bold, which Batman Brave and the Bold.
Can Batman Brave and the Bold
Batman's-
just what is going to be the first introduction of Damian into this universe?
Okay.
Damian is Batman's actual son. So Damian is a Spitfire. Like he's a 10-year-old who will like 100% slit your throat.
Yeah.
Like so
People either love or hate him, and it is like there is no in between. You're either the biggest Damian fan or like
or you hate him completely. So like it's going to be in them doing Batman Brave and the Bold is going to open up the door for so many Batman stories.
Yeah.
It's going to be
That's cool.
I'm so excited.
We're also getting a Batman sequel with Robert Pattinson reprising his role.
And that's an
Booster
Elseworld.
Gold.
Yeah.
Yep. Booster Gold as a TV series. Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, Swamp Thing, and am I missing one?
Then Joker 2, which is also an
Joker
Elseworld.
2. Yep.
That's cool.
And we also have I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
But before all of that even comes out, we do have like Shazam coming, The Flash.
Right.
Then there's supposed to be a reset. And then
I'm exhausted. We're not talking about
we're not talking about The Flash. We're not talking about it.
Okay.
But then so this is where James Gunn has to land this plane before he can take off again.
Sure.
Right.
Is that The Flash is going to reset everything.
Smart.
But then-
I mean, that would be the
then-
movie to do it.
Right. That would be. The problem is that then Blue Beetle comes out and then Aquaman comes out.
Oh yeah.
So it's like, Jason Momoa probably has to stay as Aquaman. As much as you may not know the character Lobo, but if you know the character Lobo, you know that Jason Momoa.
I know
is
he's
perfect
excited
for
about it. Yeah.
Yeah. So
It is like it's a shame that was not casted.
right, and we don't know how that's all going to play out, but he has to land that like small plane first, and then the Boeing takes off, and he can do everything
like
else.
this metaphor picture you're painting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm really excited for Supergirl because based off of like his description he gave, I think it's a really interesting like dynamic of where she's at in contrast to like Superman, Clark Kent, and his like loving upbringing. I'm curious to see her contrast, but I'm excited for everything. But yeah, that one in particular, I was like, oh, I kind of like that. And then there was one I don't remember. It has been one of the ones you said, but there was one that he was like, it's basically like imposter syndrome. I'm trying to remember what the.
Oh, that's Booster Gold.
Oh yeah.
Okay,
so
yeah.
Booster Gold is
I'm intrigued by that
from
one.
the future. So
Yes.
he's a football star from the future who like gets into trouble back then and like loses all of his stardom.
Mhm.
So he then like steals some tech and a time machine and goes back in time. And
I think
he's
it's
like,
a hilarious concept.
yeah, that's going to be a hilarious movie. Booster Gold is like a DC fan favorite. Like
Okay.
he's so stupid and annoying that you can't help but love him. He just
like fails.
Yeah, he's
Nice.
the lovable idiot. Like he stays around. You don't know how, but eventually he'll pull it off. I love Booster Gold. He's so much fun.
Who's the Booster Gold of our podcast?
Jared, it's you.
Do we?
I think it's you.
Good. I'll take that. They're like lovable idiot. I mean, if the shoe fits. I am psyched for Swamp Thing. First time I heard about Swamp Thing or read any of the comics, I was like, this is the dumbest concept for a character ever.
Mm-hmm.
And he immediately became like one of my top
Nice.
faves. And it's existed today. And I think like it's gonna be darker than people expect for like a character who's made out of like swamp. I love Swamp Thing. I think it's a phenomenal story. And okay, I didn't watch the series.
Oh, you didn't watch the series that just
Robbie
came out?
did.
Yeah.
Was it good? Was this worth going back to see like
that
could this be
series
something for the
started
future?
out okay. It wasn't a great finish.
Sure.
But it's not a complete waste of your time. You could waste your time on other things. Like that show is, I would say, if you're interested in the character Swamp Thing, I would say it's worth a watch. But don't have high expectations.
Sure. For context, I watched The Runaways and Inhumans. So
Okay.
like my bar is like here.
If you watch Inhumans, then Swamp Thing is deserves an Oscar.
Actual TV. Yeah. Okay. Oh my gosh. Inhumans was rough.
Yikes. I think we watched like the first two
okay,
episodes
so-
of that and we're like, no.
It's so
It's bad.
unbelievably
It's real bad.
It's how do you greenlight this and be like, yeah,
this is
this is
gonna-
good, right?
Rake in the big
Oh my
bucks.
gosh. So excited for the future. I think DC is in good hands. Obviously, like it's, I think we need to curtail it a little bit. There's a lot of good points, Robbie, where like Ezra Miller is still out on the loose
Dude,
doing Ezra Miller
bro.
things.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of problems in DC right now that need to be fixed before we see what the future is looking like.
Yep.
And like, I think people are still very upset with the Henry Cavill news.
Yeah.
And so like, it remains to be seen. We get our hopes up every time, and DC has a way of like stabbing us right in the feelings. But I'm casually optimistic about what the future holds for DC under James Gunn. Anything else to add to this before we go ahead and wrap her up?
I'm really excited. Like, I was this excited when I wasn't this excited. I was excited when Zack Snyder took over. But that was really because they took advantage of Comic-Con when Comic-Con was still like, that's where you did the big news.
Yeah.
So now it's just like these companies will just do big news whenever they want because they realize they don't need the platform because the internet is the platform.
Right.
So when we got that like BVS trailer, I was amped. But that's all we got. There was no like clear outline of like, is this going to be a shared universe? Is this like, do we have a plan? There was none of that. It was just like, we have BVS. Hooray.
Who knows? Yeah.
So,
exactly.
So this is a completely different, like James Gunn has said, like video games, movies, animated properties are all going to connect with these same characters in the same story. So I'm super excited for that. I think there's chance for failure, obviously, especially with the video game thing. That's an interesting way to go.
Mhm.
I don't know what the actual plan is there, and I don't know how they're going to connect that. But I'm extremely excited. We're also going to get it because they are calling it DC Elseworlds now. We're going to live in a world that has two Batmans going on at the same
Yeah,
time.
that's crazy.
So I think that's really, really interesting. Also possibly concerning for the general public to understand.
Yeah.
But you put Batman on it, people will go. So
True.
I think that's the thing too, is like the average person has a hard time following the MCU, which is a consistent, I don't want to say consistent, but like this is a shared universe. These characters' stories intertwine. And with the absolute jumble of a mess that DC has been, I don't know. It's going to be hard for a lot of people to invest. I will say, our hopes are high. We're all excited. We love James Gunn. We loved Patty Jenkins, and to be honest, I was the guy who was like, Patty Jenkins for DC, like she should be in charge of everything. And then we got Wonder Woman 2, so like maybe
she messed up Pedro Pascal. Like she's
that's hard.
Yeah, no one else has done that. She's the only person that's really messed up Pedro Pascal.
Asia, have you seen Wonder
No,
Woman 2?
I haven't watched it. I'll eventually get to that, but I have not.
You don't have to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Run, hide.
The
movie doesn't exist.
If you have no negatives about Pedro Pascal, don't watch it.
Don't watch it.
He couldn't save that movie.
Which, to be fair, that was not his fault.
It wasn't.
But yeah, it's bad.
Yeah, it's not good.
Asia, phenomenal job today.
Thank you.
It has been an absolute pleasure having you on.
Glad to be here.
You are welcome back anytime. I can't promise that my internet will be any better, but
who knows?
Please join us once more. And to our Infinity Bros listener as well, go check out Asia. Her streams are phenomenal. The vibes are immaculate.
Thanks.
Luke and Pocky are both phenomenal. Your family is amazing. We here at the Infinity Bros wish you guys nothing but the best. Please, one more time, where is the best place to find you? Is there one location where we can catch
I think the easiest way to find everything is if you just go to asiathegirl.com. It'll link you to all the things, and also connect you to like Luke's stuff too. So it's a place that we like to hang out at, and I'm pretty proud of the website. So maybe you guys will like it too.
I love that. Incredibly convenient. Robbie, thank you so much for carrying me through this. It is nice to have the foremost expert in all things DC. I believe that's what James Gunn tweeted at you, right?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he said, "Wonderful to see you." That's what he said.
Yeah. Wow. My old friend Robbie.
Yes, that's what he said. Yeah.
Thank you for coming to my wedding and speaking. And, yeah.
I'm still riding the James Gunn high right now, so yeah, I'm just happy to be here.
He's glowing, like
glowing.
You guys, you have to go watch the YouTube video. You have to go subscribe to Patreon so you can see Robbie's beautiful face. He is literally glowing right now. Robbie, thank you so much for. Oh my gosh,
you're beautiful.
I'm tired, guys. Thank you so much for being on. It has been a blast. Asia, again, one more time, thank you so much for being on. And to you, the listeners at home, wherever you're listening, however you're listening, thank you for making us a part of your day. We love you, 3000. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to the Infinity Bros podcast. You can find the Infinity Bros on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at the Infinity Bros. Feel free to send listener feedback via email at infinitybrospodcast@gmail.com.